to the point. Oh, recording in progress. It's getting good, y'all. When you hear that, when you hear recording in progress, it's gotten good. Okay. So listen. So Elkanah, she was thinking Elkanah probably is not reaching an orgasm. Y'all, can I go here? Just wave your hand if it's okay. I don't want to be too much, but I gotta go here. Okay. So Hannah was like looking at Peninnah. What do you mean? And Peninnah said, you know exactly what I mean, because I'm over here with 4 or 5 kids. What? You can't have one? Is he not reaching an orgasm? Is he not having fun in your tent? We're having a lot of fun because I have 4 or 5 kids to prove it. So finally, Hannah storms off. Hannah storms off, y'all. And she goes up the mountain to the priest, to Eli, and she prays and she talks to Eli. What's going on? But listen, I want you to go back to that liberative word, release. I want you to go back to the liberative word, release, y'all. I want you to put this on your mirror when we hang up tonight. Release, Release. Release is powerful, y'all. She got Hannah's sex spot. She kept going. She kept bringing lambs and sheep and all kind of sacrifice and money. And Elkanah didn't mind because he loved Hannah. And he, in fact, told Hannah, leave it alone. Don't mind Peninnah. She doesn't know what she's talking about. Hannah was like, I can't take it no more. You know what? I cannot take it. But here's the perspective that I rarely hear male preachers preach about. Here's the perspective that we want to go into when we talk about trauma. Is nobody had mentioned that Peninnah's bullying was the source of Hannah's closed womb. Sometimes you can be closed up because of somebody's open mouth. So her womb had shut down. Her womb had stuck. Her womb wouldn't move. She started going up to the mountain to get that release. She started going up to her private space. So this is why it's important, sister and brethren who are listening, to take your sacred space serious. This is why it's important for you to go to high places and go on walks and go to well springs and go to crystal geysers and travel abroad and travel locally and stay in a good green space. Because guess what? That's where you are going to get your release. Not there with the naysayer, not there with the one that was talking. Peninnah had talked Hannah into a place of trauma. Trauma is a thief. It disallows you to produce. Some young girls, they stay under trauma and we never get to see their full selves. Young boys, they never get to see your full self. Woo! This is a sexy and grown conversation. Never get to see your full body. Never get to see you move. Never get to see your sensory parts. Never get to see your laughter to its full effect, your smile. Never get to see the twinkle in your eye because somebody's mouth is on you. Woo! Y'all. Somebody's mouth, Peninnah's mouth was on Hannah. And the thing about trauma that we want to deal with tonight is that it's a personal part. Trauma is a personal part. So Peninnah couldn't understand what she was doing to Hannah fully because Hannah was eating it. She was taking it. And it became personal for Hannah. And Peninnah wanted, I'm not doing anything. I'm just speaking the facts. That's what people like to say. Yes, but those facts, those hard words, they had built up trauma in Hannah. And so the sensory part began to kick in. How do I know when trauma has affected me? It's because now my sensory is affected. My senses, my feelings, my emotions. And at that part, we have to grab on to the tightrope, grab on to security, grab on to a foundation. And that's what Hannah did. She said, I'm gonna grab on to something and I'm gonna go disappear. And she got deep into meditation. In fact, she started meditating so hard that the priest asked her, he said, who are you talking to? And Hannah was like, what? He was like, I see you talking to somebody. Hannah's mouth just began to move like she was drunk. She had gotten so into her release. Next part, you got to get into your healing. You got to get into your, despite what everybody says, you got to get into your, you got to let your senses feel your healing, your emotions feel your healing. You got to let your womb feel your healing. It's got to go deep. Yeah, there is a thing. There's a thing as a sexual, spiritual part of us. And it goes unacknowledged because we live in a patriarchy that actually does not want us to talk about that. So there's a part of us that is a sexual, spiritual part. Hannah was going through when she got up there on the mountaintop and Eli looked over at Hannah, Hannah was already into orgasmic state. She was already, come on, y'all. She was already ready. She was moving her mouth and Eli was like, you going back down the mountain now. You ready? Okay, you ready? You've released. You've released. It's a spiritual, sensual part of us. It's an orgasmic part of us. When trauma starts working in our lives, it tries to oppress these sensory parts. So suppress. Somebody can tell you, I love you 1,000 times. But trauma will suppress that. It will keep you from hearing that. And it said, did you hear me? I just said I loved you. And you're like, I didn't hear that. What I heard was trauma will dictate to you until you start dictating back to trauma and get the release. But Hannah began to talk back where she had been quiet. She began to talk back. It's heavy, y'all. It's heavy. So now it's your opportunity to talk back. I want you to write your first thought. I want you to write your first thought about you, your sensual part. I want you to just write one line of your first thought in your sensual release. In your sensual release. As you think back over what I've said, just write a sentence about your release. It could be a line of poetry. It could be just one word, but I want you to release something. Say, okay, for me, it would be, let me talk louder so I can't hear Peninnah. Let me talk louder. When Hannah got on the mountain, she just started speaking louder. She drowned out Peninnah. And when she got down to the bottom of that mountain, Hannah did not just have one baby, y'all. She kept having babies. That is the orgasmic spirituality. That is the orgasmic part of spirituality. And so the next person that I want to talk about, I have two people that I want to talk about before we go in deeper tonight. The next person is Ruth. The next person, her husband died. I'll be real quick with this. Her husband died. They went through the trauma of They went through the trauma of They went through burying their husband. Naomi buried her husband. Ruth buried her husband. And the other daughter-in-law buried her husband. And so Naomi began to have conversations between she and Ruth concerning what they were going to do next. And Ruth said to Naomi, your God will be my God. I'm going to go with you. Very tender conversation there. I want to point out here, sometimes our elders and our mothers are needed to propel us to move out of stagnation into a healthier sex life. Woo! Y'all, listen.
Say it again.
Listen. Sometimes we need mothers and elders who will propel us into leading a healthier sex life. Oh my God. Naomi was like, look, no doom and gloom here, baby. You got to find you somebody. You got to find, so look, you got to find you somebody. And look, you're a bold friend. You're a bold elder. You're a bold mother. If you can turn it around in folks' lives like that, where you can say, okay, you coming with me? I'm not going to be an albatross. I'm not going to add to your trauma. I'm going to push you. Hallelujah. I'm going to push you to get rid of this thing. I'm going to push you to stop mourning. I'm going to push you to alleviate some of the problem. I want you to have a release. I want you to have a sacred release. I want you to have an orgasmic release. Oh yes, this is exactly what it was. This is exactly what it was. And so just real quick, I want you to write down something that, whether your mom has passed on or your mom is here with you, I want you to write down a one-liner on something that you would like to discuss with your mother. And you know you can do this in the ancestral realm as well. Write down something, a topic that you need to talk to your mother or an elder about that will help you receive release. I'm going to give 2 minutes for that. I want you to say, I definitely need to talk about this. I definitely need to talk about this. So, and we'll be talking about that. We'll be talking about that maybe next time. But there are conversations that often we need to have with our elders. And elders, you have to be around an elder or a healer or a sage or a mother or a sister friend or a sister that can encourage you to move beyond your trauma. I don't hear it that often coming from people. I hear, girl, you don't need to move so fast. You need to wait. I don't even know why you going out with him. Okay. We feel we honor trauma. We honor trauma, and we really don't want to move trauma out the way. Oh, you haven't gotten over this yet, or you haven't gotten over that yet. Ruth was like, you know what? We got to get a release here, something to replace the trauma, the pain, the hurt, something to replace the idea that we just went through a famine. And so Ruth, so she tells Ruth, listen, y'all, ladies, listen, brothers, listen. She tells Ruth, she says, here's what I want you to do, because trauma has stolen enough. Can y'all just say that out loud? Trauma has stolen enough. Trauma has stolen enough. I don't want you to take this pain to paradise. Woo! Listen, I don't want you to take this pain to paradise. Woo! I want you to turn this pain into paradise. But I don't want you to take this pain to paradise. Because trauma is a thief. It will go the whole journey. And so she says to Ruth, she says, Ruth, here's what you do. I want you to go in and I want you to get with the spiritual sacred place. That spiritual, I want you to do something that's spiritual, but it's very orgasmic. Y'all, this is getting me. She sent Ruth into the room, to the threshing floor where Boaz was asleep. And she told Ruth, uncover his feet. Oh, baby, lie down. And then it says very clearly, Ruth 3 and 4, it says, he will tell you what you are to do. Listen, take advice from him, follow him. Listen, let him take you somewhere. Oh! Come on, get ready, shake that trauma off, baby. Shake that trauma off. Look, you're about to discover some peace. You're about to discover an erogenous zone that you did not know about. You're about to, baby, get with it. Oh my goodness, is this blessing anybody? Let me just see some hands. Is this blessing anybody? Listen, Ruth, I want you to uncover his feet. I want you to lie down, and I want you to let him tell you what to do. because you're coming out of a situation, and he's a very wise man. And Naomi urged Ruth to look, go uncover his feet. Go ahead, go. There will be invitations that come to us to get a release, but sometimes we're hesitant because of the trauma to move forward. And so, Naomi, you have to have people around you who are not afraid to go forward. Ooh, did y'all hear that? Have people around you who are not afraid to go further and not afraid to go forward. And so after she threw her skirt, that's what Ruth said. He said, throw your skirt over him. It's about to get done. It's about to get done. Then Boaz, after everything went like it should have gone, and Ruth gave everything she needed to give, and Boaz gave what he needed to give. Then Boaz stands up and he says, okay, I'm ready to take care of her. And he checks in with all the family to make sure there's nobody else in line closer than him that should have married Ruth because of honor to the family. And he said, okay, I want her. And he gives a symbolic marriage proposal to Naomi. Let's move. He said, let's get the next level going. So what we are really seeking when we talk about trauma and sexuality, because see, a lot can happen between 18 and 50 and 60. And so you're taking things step by step. But we want to always give room for freedom and liberation. So in all my, I look, there's an opportunity sometimes to be wild, and to set yourself free, and to let the boundaries down, and to take the shackles off, to let the wind blow through your hair, to let the erotica blossom. That's what was offered on the threshing floor, an opportunity. Sometimes what we're looking for is a healing in the way of something from CVS, when really we just need an open door so our erotica can blossom. There's nothing you can buy to bring it. It's something that is evolving already on the inside. It's an invitation that goes to your core, to your sacral self, to your spiritual self. Can I let myself free to love again? Can I let myself free to live again? Can I let myself free to remember what I wanted out of life, what I wanted in life? Trauma's deep. Trauma's deep. So we have to handle it with care. It's not something that you can just go over and tell people, forget about it. You should be able to get over that. Come on now. No, trauma is something that the elders are needed for guidance. Rites of passage are needed. There's rituals that are needed. And Naomi was taking Ruth through these beautiful rituals. And so there she was giving it. And so the next person that I want to talk about is Janie from Their Eyes Were Watching God, Zora Neale Hurston. Janie, have any of you read the book? Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you, Sister Deborah. Janie, you see, has many relationships. And Janie has something that she wants out of life. She wants big things. You got her nanny who's telling her, go ahead and marry this guy. You got, everybody wants her. Everybody wants her. But there's some triggers in the way. There's some triggers, some sexual triggers, and we are talking about sexuality tonight. There's some triggers. There's a contrast, and many of the characters are not like the other. And Janie is taking herself through this process. She said, okay, I'll try it. Nanny wants her to marry Logan. So, okay, let's go. Let's marry Logan. He's too old for her. He's not taking her to a sacred place. He's not allowing for her her orgasmic self to rise up. She said, wait a minute. They're nice, but it's not what I want. Then she gets with the guy that wants to Jody Stark. You remember him? He wants to be the mayor. And she says, you know what? He's nice, but I really don't, I can't feel it. Nothing is most traumatic than being with somebody who you really don't feel. Woo! Y'all, let's just read a bit of this. It says the men noticed her firm buttocks like she had grapefruits in her hip pockets, the great rope of black hair swinging to her waist and unraveling in the wind like a plume. Then her pugnacious breasts trying to bore holes in her shirt. The men were saving with the mind what they lost with the eye. The woman took the faded shirt and muddy overalls and laid them away for remembrance. It was a weapon against her strength. And if it turned out of no significance, still it was hope that she might fall to their level someday. The men wanted her, but no matter what you go through, what process you go through, if it's somebody you don't want, you just don't want them. And I think that part of our pushback as we welcome this new liberation is we need to allow people to pick who they want. We need to allow, because there's loads of trauma that comes. Now, the thing is, it's just the opposite almost for the story of Ruth, where Naomi introduced Boaz to Ruth. Okay, but here the introduction didn't work. And sometimes it doesn't work. It's a personal thing. And if you're not feeling it in your personal sacred space, your spiritual space of orgasm, of love, of erotica, then that's not a place you need to go, because it only causes exacerbated trauma to be in a relationship that does not allow you to feel the liberation of love and freedom. And so I find it so interesting. And I often go back and look at Janie and read it over and over again, the story of Their Eyes Were Watching God, because she's a woman to reckon with who was so many things were happening around her, so many jealousies from the other women. And Janie was so unconventional and she kind of dressed masculine. And I wanted to talk about that for a minute, because sometimes people will put you into a box of dressing a type of way, and that's really not your mojo. So be yourself. Don't cause trauma on yourself dressing or trying to pretend like you like something else. You know what your ammunition is when it comes to love life. Love life. You know what your ammunition is, and you know that what will bring the fire. What will bring the fire. And suppressing that brings trauma, or people talking about how you are, why you are, or trying to figure out why you do the things you do. It causes a lot of trauma in life. Why do you always wear that way? Why do you have on those overalls, Janie? You're too pretty for that. And it's like, look, this is where my fire comes from. She was girded, she was earthy, her feet were, she was barefoot, and everybody saw who she was. And we want people to understand, I want to see who I am. Is there anybody else out there who wants to see who you are? Not through the eyes of people, but I want to see who I am for myself. I want to see who I am for myself. I don't want to cause the same trauma for myself, to myself, that others have been causing, because I'm uncomfortable. Would anybody like to speak to that? Okay. And so we see her go through these different relationships, but then she meets somebody at the end, and it's the love of her life. It's Tea Cake. Tea Cake. Oh my God. When she meets Tea Cake, it's like lightning for her. She knows, she's satisfied, she's okay with it. And she falls in love with Tea Cake, not because anybody else is trying to make her fall in love, not because the standard is telling her to be with somebody, not because her family wants her to be married and that's what's acceptable. Has anybody ever been in a relationship because you tried to fix the standard in your family and you said, oh, okay, let me go, or you did something, not even a relationship, you did something and it really wasn't you, but you did it because it was expected from the family. I'm really not that type. But I've heard a lot of testimonies. And the testimonies I've heard, in the end, those people become some very kick-ass women because they say, oh no, no more. I'm living my truth. That's it. I'm living my truth. And Jane, look, I want you to read what Janie said about the pear tree. She said, Janie felt that harmony in a relationship was like a pear tree. She used the metaphor and its surrounding. She said, oh, to be a pear tree, any tree in bloom, with kissing bees singing of the beginning of the world. She was 16. When Janie got into those relationships, she was just moving about, and she really didn't belong. But to be in a relationship that belongs is orgasmic. It is erotica. To be in a relationship where you feel like you are satisfied. And especially if that relationship begins with self. Especially if that relationship heals self. Especially if you're like Hannah and you get a release. Wow. That just gave me chills. Because it definitely depends on the healing journey. I think in the first step in developing healing from trauma, we have to develop this awareness of self. And we have to pinpoint places where we need assistance and how those places relate to sex and sexuality. Sex and sexuality. Sex ought to be so good, and intimacy ought to be so good that when your person walks by, your body begins to flow like water. It should not have to be. I always tell sisters, I said, I believe in foreplay, but if you're in love, foreplay takes care of itself. There could be somebody, and look, I'm turning around. See, it's just us, right? Listen, y'all. You want to be in that type of thing where, look, my husband used to come walking from his class. We were on a college campus. He would come walking from his class, and I would be standing at the top of the hill, and I would be ready. Okay, I'd be ready to hug him just like I hadn't seen him that morning. I'd just be ready to hug him, and we walked through campus, and it definitely depends on if you're really into somebody. The healing journey is about taking this great first step of acknowledging the fact that you like you, and then you're giving all that to somebody else, and that becomes super attractive. That my husband told me when we first met, he said, I like that you like yourself. And I really appreciated that, because that was an acknowledgement that I had done some healing work. I had done healing
Hallelujah.
work. Oh. I had done healing work, and I was young, but you're never too young. And I have witnessed fifth grade girls who, the minute you get your cycle, it's time for healing work. The minute that first drop drops down, even before, but definitely when those hormones start pushing the menstruation out and your cycle starts coming, girls begin to have questions, and the hormones and the serotonin starts rushing, and the estrogen and all that starts moving through the body. That is when girls need to know, hallelujah, that that cycle is for you. That cycle, not to be grossed out by it, not to be stunned by it, not to be, embarrassed by it. That cycle is for you. That cycle is for you to expand your nation, to expand your horizons, to expand. Listen, sometimes the womb will send you messages. Have y'all ever experienced that? You're wondering, what just happened? What changed? The womb picks up on some heavy hormones. Sometimes some things will happen, but you've already felt it in your womb first. Wow. You've already felt it in your womb. And when we develop that connection, that sacral connection, we can actually feel orgasms better. We can feel the esoteric of erotica better when we're connected to the womb, when we talk to the womb, when we put our hands on our womb and our bellies and just rub and calm it down and express our sexuality through our own messaging, not through somebody else's, because oftentimes the reason we are so jacked up and we're so traumatized is because, y'all, it's because somebody else's messages were wrong. Somebody else's messages we received were out of line. Somebody's messages were off course. You sent me the wrong message. And that's why it's important to detox the womb space. Detox the womb space, okay? How do you do that? Herbal baths, detox, and doing a lot of work, doing a whole lot of therapy, doing a whole lot of meditation, doing a whole lot of fasting. It takes constant work. You got to detox the womb, because sometimes the wrong messages have been sent into your womb. And it's kind of like that computer that downloads the wrong, what is that? The wrong message. It's got a virus on it. Yeah. Everybody that comes into our presence does not come with the right message. And we need to tell our sisters that from the mountaintop. We need to tell our sisters that sometimes the trauma has come too close. Sometimes the trauma, and it's exhausted us. The negative thoughts, the fatigue of overthinking, the being disrespected over and over again, and moving into a sensual sexuality is a boss move. Oh, y'all, moving into sensual sexuality is a boss move. When you decide as a woman, I'm about to move into my sensual self, I'm making a boss move. That means I am going to create the messages for myself that I like, and I'm not going to drop under that standard. And I'm going to speak to people the way I want to be spoken to. Woo! I'm going to reciprocate good energy. I'm going to watch what I say, because I wouldn't want to receive that message that's out of order. So I'm going to be careful about my downloads that I'm putting out there. I'm going to work on existing relationships. Woo, listen. Sometimes if you don't know that you've been traumatized, it can go into another zone, because there's so many sisters that don't know that they've been traumatized. And you say, well, how could they not know? Because it is the status quo of their village. It is the way things go in their home. It's the way things go. Well, you should have known he wasn't no good. I told you that, but you didn't say it. You didn't say he was no good. You let him come over here. You let him come pick me up. You didn't say he was no good with the type of messages that I needed to receive it. Because there's a way that you can formulate a message that anybody will sit down and say, thank you for sharing that. But then there's a way where you will walk away and say, I'm not sure if that was serious. And so you have to um, set a standard in the home of sending out the right message. Woo! And this is not just on sensual, sexual relationships. This is on relationships with friends and others, because by being a good friend, you're actually preparing your friend to be a good wife. Come on now. Me being a good friend, and this is why in villages saying, oh, this just hit me. This is why in villages, it is so important to have sister walking to get water with you and walking to get to the market with you, because those friends hold you down until your person steps in. But if I have somebody who is traumatizing me in that space, then I'm not going to know how to receive the good thing. Ooh, receiving the good thing. This is so important. And it's so important to know each of us has triggers to the trauma. Each of us has totally different triggers to the trauma. So how I receive things might not be how you receive it, but we have to understand each other and be willing to respect each other's trigger spaces. I don't really like that. And then somebody said, well, try it. And then after that third time, be respectful and say, you know what? I'm not going to say try it anymore because she said she didn't like it, or he said he didn't like it. And this builds security. And I want us to write that word down, because security is a big word when you talk about trauma, sex after trauma. You must build security. For good sex, not sex. No. Ain't nobody just trying to have sex, because that you can get anywhere. But to have good sex, delicious sex, orgasmic sex, sacred sex after trauma, it must be secure. Okay, case in point. If you talk on a line or use internet that is not a secure line, there's a chance that somebody could pick up on your conversation. And so that's why the Wi-Fi will say unsecured line, not a secure line. It's up to you to trust it. Do you trust it to put all your business on there? Go on your bank information. It already told you unsecured line. It already let you know. It's, when we were younger, if one of the couch or chairs at the table had a weak leg, your mom or your grandmother or your grandfather would say, don't just jump in and out of that chair. Why? Because that chair is not secure. Woo, y'all, we're going somewhere. Listen, you just cannot jump in and out of things that are not secure. The lesson was established early in life at the house. Don't sit on that couch on that side. Come sit in the middle where the legs are secure. But I got to fix that leg. Okay? Don't get on that unsecure Wi-Fi line and expose yourself. So what I'm looking for is security. Come on. I'm looking for security. So in between trauma and healing, there's got to be security. It's got to be trust. About 3 years ago, we had a Trust Again conference, and we focused on the respect and the allegiance and the loyalty and the thought that and the surroundings that go into building up a trust relationship, whether it's boss and worker, whether it's a friend and friend, whether it's husband and wife, whether it's pastor and congregants. You need a secure, woo, y'all, I'm getting excited, to formulate a powerful, I'm gonna come close, y'all. To formulate a powerful existing relationship, it has to be secure. And for the sex to be out of this world, you got to be secure about it. I mean, you want to be able to come in, throw your bra off, throw your stuff off, throw it to the side and say, come on, let's just sit here. That takes security. Do you know how many sisterins through all of our ministry together, how many sisterins say and brethren say the lights have to be off for us to get down? Or, you know, we really don't hold hands too much because I didn't trust him about something that happened 3 years ago. Security, security, not just trust, but to be secure means it's locked down. It's something that you can stand on, you won't fall. Woo, come on, somebody. Security changed. I should. uh, security changes the relationship. Security, this is so important because when y'all, I'm about to take out running. Y'all know how I do when I get excited now. When triggers come up, you're going to need somebody secure with you. And see, that's why I don't trip over who people love and how people love them. Because see, if that person is making you feel a more perfect union, unlike the patriarchy that we live under, then baby, do your thing. But my thing right here is, look, when my triggers come up, I need security. And when your triggers come up, you need security. And that is what you want to look for. You want to look for people who don't just have a sexual benefit, but they bring security in your life. You got me? I got you. You got me? I got you. Because I'm detoxing right now, because I'm healing right now, because I've been through some things where I couldn't trust people at 13, 14, 15 right now, because I went through something where somebody backstabbed me. You got me? You got me. You got me? You got me. And I'm processing this. I'm processing this. Because those moments when trauma happens, you lose a secure footing. Honestly. When trauma happens, you lose security. Breathing in, breathe out. Because triggers can, and when I'm triggered, and I hear certain things or somebody says something and it reminds me of the trauma and I lose my footing, I need some people in place, my circle, husbands, friends, best friends, whoever you call your circle. You need people who will allow you to feel secure. Woo! Listen, when you think about the first words that you learned about sex, were they security words? Think about the first words that you learned about sex at 8 or 9, and you hear somebody touch somebody. Yeah, I'm talking about, you remember that game, Touch and Go or Hide and Seek? Y'all remember that game? Children would run and then they come back and said, I remember this girl one day saying, he touched me. And I was like, wow, I wasn't able to comprehend it because I didn't know about that stuff yet. So I was thinking, where touch you, like touch and go, it is hide and seek. I'm trying to gather it. But as I grew older, I began to see there are times where young teenagers are triggered by things that happened even in their youth. Not like a long time ago, but like I'm 12, I'm 15, and I'm being triggered by. And so how do I become secure again? How do I become whole again? Well, it takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of work. And thankfully, this conversation is a treatment. It's a treatment for trauma. It's a treatment for some of the things that we've learned about sex. When people, he nasty. He nasty. Nasty is a big word connected to sex. Nasty is a big word. But even when you're in college and he say they doing the nasty, that's hey, that's what it's called. They doing the nasty. And you say, oh, okay, don't go in the room right now. They doing the nasty. Parties going on, all the good music playing, Kappa party, Q party, all they doing the nasty. That's not quite a good word later in life as you try to build security. You have to now detox that the fact that that's nasty, because believe it or not, the body still will respond to that being nasty. So when you get in a relationship and somebody likes to kiss you in your ear, there might be a trigger. Woo! And you might think that's nasty before you embrace it and say, that feels good. First, you might say, ooh, nasty boy. But then you might say, this is connected to a good experience. Come on, somebody. I got to detox from these words that I learned even as a youth. That's nasty. What's he doing? Ooh, something dirty. He being bad. He being bad. Well, yeah, yeah. And so how do I get myself not to think of sexuality and sensuality as being bad when I get to be 30 and 40 and 50? Now I got to shake that because I'm traumatizing myself. No, he's being good. And I want to enjoy the goodness. And so we have to learn how to redefine sex as empowerment with empowerment words. And so I want everybody to put one word, jot down one word in your notes that you would use to redefine sexuality in your life, intimacy. And don't say, I'm not having sex, because this is all about you tonight. We'll come back for the rest of it. This is about you. One word that will help revitalize you. When you think of this word, you get rhythm in your body. You think of this word, you get a cosmic feeling. Even you feel somewhat grounded when you think of this word. I would love to know the words that y'all are putting down, but they're for you. And so this healing is good for us today. This healing is good because sometimes women are trapped into this endless cycle of negative language and negative lingo and negative trying to manage family and tireless work and cleaning and preparing moods. And how do I and something happened at work that was unexpected and it kind of shook me. And then something happened over here. It was a bill I couldn't pay. And then something happened here. And if somebody said something that was out, oh, go ahead, release. I love it. I love it, sister. And something happened over here. So how can I bring myself to heal amidst the obligation? Okay, I want to talk about that for a few minutes. I want to heal beyond my obligations, and I want to be able to be erotica in amidst my obligations. Ooh, you know, you got these grandmothers who, oh, energetic fusion. So, oh, oh, y'all are charging this thing right on up, and we're gonna fly off like a UFO when it's over, because it's just that cosmic and phenomenal. So how do I, one can often leave trauma and jump back into another fire if you're not careful in how you climb out of trauma. Woo! And how you climb out of trauma, fitting in and changing locations and changing jobs. And you have to have these words and these affirmations built for yourself. Security, again, security. In order to get the release in the next level, you have to have some things in place so you don't fold out of trauma into a bigger fire. Woo. That's heavy. And so in the middle of taking care of family, in the middle of taking care of community, taking care of friends, how do I take these gentle steps to fold out of trauma? So I'm detoxing, I'm speaking affirmations, I'm taking private time for my release, I'm going to the mountaintops, I'm meditating, I'm seeing my therapist. Well, let me tell you, I want to bring up Mary Cooper. Mary Cooper was a housewife who lived on a farm during the Revolutionary War. She said in her diary, "Oh, I am tired almost to death. Oh, I am tired almost to death." She had been busy giving, busy building, and the system we live in, this patriarchy here in America, it has never honestly given proper relief to women. So with that said, the expression of emotions that we have pent up, yeah, the expression of emotions that we have pent up. She said, "Oh, I am tired almost to death." What we have pent, the frustration, the emotion, the joy even that we have inside is like a volcano. And so that alone is orgasmic. When you just let out a little bit of joy, you're going to feel it. You're going to feel this orgasmic release. That's why I call it the release, because when you start letting out this expression of emotion, don't be afraid to be emotional. Write that in your notes. When you begin to become serious about your sacral chakra, serious about your sexual self, serious about your ecstasy, how you, peace, Pastor, how you get there and how you want to go there. Don't hold back any emotion. That's the first, like Hannah on that mountain, start letting it all out. If you have to cry to get to the joy, if you have to laugh to get to the tears, say, you know what? Why is this important? Because another trauma that women experience is being told not to be emotional. And how can I have some good loving, knocking boots all night long if I ain't emotional? It's not gonna work. We got some pent up emotion, y'all. Don't cry. You better not cry. Suck those tears up. You know, even teachers say it sometimes, and it's very alarming. Don't, you know, you're sitting there, you're full. Let me cry. Let me feel this. You know what? Look, we got to move out of the robotic state into the erogenous state where I can feel again. I want to feel. Write that in your notes. I want to feel. I want to feel. And sometimes it's going to traumatize you when you start feeling yourself. Just a little heads up. Sometimes you're going to be traumatized that you feel so good, that you feel what you're feeling. Say, oh, I didn't even know I felt this way. And I'm talking because when you start downloading some of the things and releasing it, download, release, oh, wow, I didn't even know I felt that way about it. Wow. And that's why therapists and journaling and diaries, or there was a time women kept diaries that were as sacred as the word itself. It was the keys to the kingdom. And for their family, that was their priceless gift to the family. Wow, she wrote that in her diary. And you almost did. My mother just passed and she had diaries, and we just stacked them up and made them look cute because I honor her by just writing in her own diary. Thanks, Mom. I can feel them. I can put them to my face. But you know how priceless those expressions, that language is. And so we must be free to pull emotions before sex is really good. That's what I'm getting to. We must be free to write emotions before sex can be really good. We must be free to speak emotionally before our sensuality kicks in. Have you ever noticed? I can say this to us, y'all, because this is a nice, intimate setting. Have you ever noticed women who speak in tongue also speak that same language in the bedroom? Woo! It is what it is. It's holy. It's holy. I'm not going to let you make me feel a type of way about it. Because it was always the lady, right? With the red dress on in the Kojic church. It was always that lady who everybody said, oh, look at her. And everybody was looking at her. You don't have to point her out. We know who you're talking about because she was free to express herself. It draws attention. So when when we connect the freedom of emotion and liberation and the release to my sexuality, fireworks, because now I'm feeling some stuff I never felt before. Now I'm feeling some stuff that I've never felt before. I'm feeling expressive. I'm feeling spirit. I'm feeling sexuality. There was this poetry book that was about this thick back in 1991. It was called Black Erotica. Did anybody get that? Black Erotica. It's a Black book and has Black Erotica on it. It's super hard to find now, but I sold it in my bookstore in Tennessee. Black Erotica. I have a copy. My husband has a copy because it was so deep. Some of the poems in that book were like, oh, you'd have to stop reading after reading one. It was deep, y'all. Black Erotica. When you express sensuality from your true place, it's enough to heat up the room. It's enough. And we ought to be able to set free our emotions so the sex can be good, so the house can be good. So a lot of men who have frustration, those aren't frustrations about the man. Those aren't frustrations about something outside the house. A lot of men have frustrations because they've never really expressed themselves. And so something that we often do together as a couple is write poetry together. And we'll sit and write 2 lines and talk about it. And so I want to give us the opportunity for the next 2 minutes. I want you to write 1, 2, 3 lines of your emotional expression. And I want you to see yourself speaking this outward. Okay. Beautiful. Would anybody like to say one of their lines? Not their whole poem, but what? Would anybody like to say? As you emotionally express yourself? What's something that you dare to say? The wild woman in you is daring to emotionally express yourself, forgetting about that have passed, but pressing on. You say, you know what? I know I'm not supposed to say this, but that's over. Okay. You've lived that judgment. What's one line that you can share?
I'll share. Mine is can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
Okay. I am beautiful and expansive, feeling the pulsing of the universe within my uterus.
Woo!
That's great.
Wow. I love it, sister.
I just
Oh
let it
my,
flow.
you
Just
did
let it
let
flow.
amazing. Wow. Wow. See, like any teacher, you give the assignment and the student blows you away. A plus 100 and 110. Okay. That was amazing. Wow. I feel the pulsating in my uterus, and that's where we should feel it. And in order for us to heal, we want to bring revitalization back to the womb. Back to the womb. Come on back. We should feel our heart throbbing at times through our womb when the ecstasy gets that good. when the erogenous zones began to flow. You should feel the pulse, like sister said, in your womb. You're saying what I hear in that is I'm coming back to life. Wow. Wow. And this is why diary writing and journal keeping and poetry writing is so important, because there are some wild words that we've never expressed. Would anybody else like to say it? And so poetry is one of the ways that we can have an emotional expression, also through planting and touching Mother Earth and expressing ourselves through gardening and digging, just getting the dirt on our hands, the sand and the ocean water, touching the green and venturing online. Buying property is a boss move for ecstasy and for to build up the sexual zone. Buying property, land involvement is very sexual. For look, in the South, there's a thing about women who have property, and when are we going to the do womb belt? There's a thing about what when are we going to do the womb belly dance? uh, and yes, exactly. There's a thing about women owning property and being about property and land and gardening. There's a very mystical thing about women that do such things. It adds to your attraction when your feet are on the ground. And what's that go back to, y'all? What's that go back to? Security. It goes back to the grounding of security. And yes, it goes back to ownership, owning who you are, being secure in that, being secure in that. And so, are there any questions? Are there any more so than that? No questions. Are there any comments that you want to speak? And so I want us to take the time out to rub our hands together. Rub our hands together. And when we rub our hands together, I like to use different oils. I'm just going to pull one. I always like to pull out the bag. This one I pull now is patchouli. And I like to drop some oil on my hands, rub them together, and kind of ground myself, ground my feet, ground my feet. And what that does is when I feel grounded, I can offer myself as a secure vessel for my husband. I can say, look, I'm grounded. And for those who are involved with, it doesn't have to be your husband. Okay, that's a whole nother teaching, because I know we live in fear of that. Or I would love to talk about that the next time, because I think many of us do not bring our relationship up because it's not a husband relationship. But we have to be careful with that, because any person that you hold secure, that's your person, that's your person. And we're not to allow anybody to judge or to weigh in or to take away from that. That's also traumatic. When people begin to try to make something more or less, just let it be. Write that in your notes. Just let it be. Just let it be, and you'll see it grow. Your person is your person, especially, yes, your person is your person. And a lot of trauma has happened to us when we're ready to partake and participate in a very loving relationship, and others began to put standard on it. It can be very erotic. It can be very sensual. It can be very tasty. It can be a delicious relationship. But I'm not going to get to feel the fullness if I'm constantly putting guards up around it because of the judgment of other people. And so let me allow, did everybody hear that? Because I want y'all to share that. let me allow my daughter to be, my granddaughter to be, my friends to be, and let me not push them into a traumatic situation that I just came out of or that I'm trying to avoid. I don't want anybody to feel that. Yeah, delicious relationship. Yes, it's got to be tasty. The word said, "Oh, taste and see." It's got to be tasty. It's got to be delicious enough, like a piece of cake, that you want to go back for seconds. That's how good you want the relationship to be. Like, gotta have more. Gotta have more. Bring it on. And so first, I want to quickly run through some of the traumas that often go unnoticed, especially around our community. Being ignored, being made fun of, not being acknowledged as beautiful, bullying, being misunderstood, the trauma of not having what others have, the trauma of not being picked for the team or on the dance floor. I want to go back to that one. Not feeling worthy, hair issues, not being appreciated, left out of circles or friendships, not being validated. When folk turn and ask someone else, did she really do this? Like, did Deborah really write that, or did somebody write that for her? I see somebody moving. That's the worst thing, not being heard. That's the worst thing that we can do, sister, and to each other, is steal each other's validation. Just like, boom, not being heard, not being touched, or being touched inappropriately, being touched and then being ignored after being touched. And so trauma is what trauma is. And so we could add a million different things to identify trauma. And our responsibility is just to say, I see you. I understand that. And not to weigh in on it, and allow them not to weigh in on it in the way that we take away from that experience. And so we want to talk about moving energy levels away from, we want to talk about arousal. If I could, for just a minute, because it's so exciting. We want to talk about arousal. Are you at the point where you are ready to release and allow yourself to become aroused, to become open to be filled? And see, like Hannah, that wound can be shut. And because we're not releasing, because we're not willing to be open to heal from the trauma, understandably, because so much has happened. So we have to take baby steps. We have to take baby steps to arousal. And arousal adds a punch to sexual engagement. Arousal adds a punch to conversation. If you're aroused by a person's conversation, your eyes begin to undress that person. Your eyes begin to do the thing like, oh, I'm totally into whatever you're saying. Say more. And so arousal, am I at the place where I am allowing arousal to happen in my life? And then you have hyperarousal, where it could actually cause some triggers to happen in your life. So if you're hyper aroused, sometimes too much too quick. And so if you're dealing with trauma of any sorts, which we all are, you just want to write that down. It's too much too quick. You know, a person who doesn't like raw oysters, don't eat 5. Okay, too much too quick. You just want to take your time and adventure into this new erotica space. Too much too quick. And so when we experience certain things slowly and with taste and with regard, oh my God, yes. You don't want to overwhelm the body. Listen, somebody. You don't want to, not digging raw oysters, yes, but whatever it is that you like, yes. And so you want to take your time. So that's the next thing, is take your time to slowly become aroused. Take your time for natural responses. You don't have to force it. Okay, this is not a YouTube video. You don't have to force the love. Nobody's taking pictures. Nobody's videoing. What in the world? Why are we going so fast? Learn to adventure yourself and your partner. Adventure the conversation. Adventure the glass of wine. Woo! Hey, yes, I told y'all that shout comes both ways. Adventure the taste of the food, adventure the boat ride, adventure the walk through the park, adventure two hands meeting together. When you rub your hands, this is why rubbing your hands together, grandma wasn't just doing that. Grandma was causing some fires, some big fires to happen with her hands. And that's something at least once a day, put good oil on your hands, rub it to send the scent through your olfactories. It's so important that your olfactories, this doesn't happen with bought perfumes, like off the thing, off the shelf. You got to get some strong, good, at least one good essential oil, lemon. You got to get some orange. You got to get some peppermint, some eucalyptus, and just wake up your olfactories. Wake up your sensories. The sensories can get bogged down. The sensories can get bogged down. The sensories can get to the point where they don't want to smell anymore because maybe some trauma happened there. Woo! Y'all feel me on that? Some trauma can happen there. Some trauma can happen in the olfactory area where you don't really want to smell anymore, don't want to taste. If somebody says to you, a sister says to you, if a sister says to you, I don't have a taste for that, usually something has happened. I've done a lot of sessions on opening up the olfactory, opening up the nose, the scent, the smell. If somebody says to you, I don't have a taste, usually it's a trigger, usually it's a trauma, it's something going on. And so that's not something you just skip over. If a sister, young girl, your daughter, your granddaughter, or niece, or somebody says, I'm really not feeling it, I'm not hungry. Then you hear that 2 or 3 times, then you ask them, come here, let me talk to you, what's going on? Because the olfactory tells us a lot about the emptiness that we feel. It tells a lot about trauma. The olfactory is it strikes. It's the olfactory strikes when you say, oh, I smelled something that reminded me of this, this, or this. And so we can get overwhelmed. Okay, next we want to talk about, oh, this has been awesome. The feeling of being overwhelmed. The feeling of being overwhelmed. And then how do I get over that to get to the good sex or the good feeling? The feeling, it's a lot into the breathing. It's a lot about breathing. It's a lot about taking time to adventure. When you feel like you are overwhelmed, let that be a sign that you need to take a couple of hours, couple of days. If you feel overwhelmed, let that be a sign that a book and some distilled water or sparkling water need to go and have a session at the beach. When you feel overwhelmed, beloved, and this is for our ancestral women. Yes, the ancestral. Yes, yes, yes. But this is for our ancestral women as well. Our ancestral women, when they felt overwhelmed, they did things like candle making, soap making, baking, planting, butter and cheese making, spinning, weaving, dyeing, knitting, sewing, dressmaking. It was nothing like seeing your grandmother just sewing away in the corner. You walk in the house, or my grandmother would use her plumes and do the calligraphy. And when you become overwhelmed, this is a good time to put all of that orgasmic energy into making and creating. Woo! Yes. What do you like to do with your hands? What do you like to do with your body? What do you like? The Sister Jan said, the belly dancing. That is like perfect. That is like perfect for this session. How do you learn to move your body so that you don't fit? Gardening and painting? That's right, Sister Robin. What else do we have? What takes you to a place? Put all that orgasmic energy, all that sexual energy into putting some beautiful plants into the ground. But it doesn't have to be pretty. That's right. That's right. I've done pottery. I've done oh my God. I've done pottery and other things. And it's just about really the release, y'all. RELEASE, y'all, the release. The release, I cannot talk about it enough. Getting that release, because there's so many things that we do for others, and we do for as mothers, and we do as leaders. But the release gives you, yes, the release gives you a whole different direction. Just put the energy out there. And get your mind in a good space, get your body in a good space. And have you ever seen a girl who skates by herself at the skating rink? Okay, who skates by herself, and you become kind of like amazed at her skating by herself. She's with nobody, but she can do loops around the skating rink. She goes backwards, she goes forward, she's dancing. Or the woman who's sitting at the beach, I saw this yesterday, who is knitting by herself. And you're like, she has her water bottle, she has her blanket, she has her shoes. Why? Because look, it's hard to miss a person that is engaged in themselves, who's having a personal erotica moment. It's hard to miss that person. You've been stared at a lot by people. You just didn't know it because you've been into what you've been into. And a lot of people have watched you. You don't know because you're intriguing when you do that. You're beautiful when you do your thing. You're beautiful. And so I want everybody to put one thing in the chat that you're going to do more of, knowing that you're putting beauty into the universe when you do it. What's one thing I'm going to do that is going to keep me occupied and help me release, but at the same time, I'm putting beauty in the universe? Sister Deborah over here is having her dinner delivered. I love it.
Dessert.
Sister Stephanie, you say you're going to start back designing. That's beautiful. Did I miss somebody? Let me see. Start back designing, writing. So writing, Sister Vanessa says writing. Yes, you're going to start writing because you're putting beauty into read a book. Yes, because you're putting beauty into the universe. When people walk into a tea house, dancing, beautiful, beautiful. When people walk into that space and they see you, they're experiencing the erotica of you because you're releasing. And they're getting that beauty. And so we need to do more of that. We need to do more of that. Where people, we need to do more of that because it's setting a trend for self. It's setting a calendar for self that I am releasing. I am really walking. Yes, walking. Walking consistently. I think that, and singing. Yes, I am releasing. What are you singing so much for? What are you walking so much for? I am releasing. And sometimes when women release, through the history of women, they've been vilified. So this is why we as women of modern age, we take it very serious to release, because for all of the women who had fire within them that could not display it, and all of the women who had orgasmic flames just all around them. They were beautiful and they were engaging and they were laughing and they were joyful and they could, and you noticed them, but they could not do it fully because of the patriarchy or because of the family they were from or the community they were from. They were vilified. Oh, you're doing too much. You remember actually when they would tell women, don't wear too red of a lipstick? You remember that? They said, don't wear too red of a lipstick. And it was like, okay, what's too red? What's too, you're doing too much, basically. You're doing too much. Look, it don't take all that. But see, we are trying to resurrect out of those ashes like the phoenix. We're trying to come up and say, look, let me be careful to make sure that I am releasing, that my beauty is showing. That's why I say that's why it's called like beauty for ashes, what that my beauty is showing. And let me not allow the vilification to sink into me or my children or the people women that I know, like they did with Tituba, the witch, the one that they said she was a witch, and the enslaved worker in New England of America, Tituba, who was from Barbados. And y'all remember the story of her. And she taught women in New England so many things to do. They called her Tituba the witch. She taught them how to bake cakes, and she taught them how to drink teas, and she taught them how to dance, and how to flow with the wind, and how to know when rain was coming. And because these Puritans, they didn't like that. They wanted to be able to control all of that. Tituba was getting all the attention. Tituba was getting all the attention. And they said, you know what? We don't like that. And that's how often we're vilified. We don't like you getting all the attention, Tituba. And so they began to put her up in front of the court to kill her because she and claimed that she was practicing a craft because she was getting all the attention of these white women instead of the Puritan Salem's Puritan ministers. And so we have to be careful not to let people vilify us. That's my point. And remember Tituba. Remember her when you're dancing and when you're creating and when you're picking your teas and when you're rubbing on your lavender oil, that I will not be vilified for my sexuality. I will not be vilified for the level of red lipstick that I want to wear. I love it. Do y'all feel me? I mean, you know, sometimes I will not be feeling a type of way because I wore white and everybody wore black, you know, so what you wear white for? And there are sisters who practice different things. They don't wear black. And so we have to get beyond that and allow ourselves to engage at a new level and to feel that release. And say, you know what? I release myself so that I can be filled, I can be made whole, I can feel my erogenous self, I can feel my uterus vibrate, Sister Deborah. And sometimes women are expected to just give in to status quo, just enjoy the sex. But how can I enjoy the sex, even after trauma, if I don't enjoy myself, if I'm not happy with myself? There's a book called Aristotle's Masterpiece that I read a long time ago in school. And it is a book, and we have it, right? We have it on our bookshelf. And it's a book that really gives tips of relationships. You'd be shocked. It's an ancient book, but it gives tips of relationships to partners. But how can I actually make somebody feel the fullest if I have not tended to myself? And trauma requires that we tend to ourselves. Trauma will stay there if you don't do the work. And so I just want you to put a note here, right here in your notes, that there's some things that I need to start speaking into the atmosphere about my sensuality. Like, for instance, nothing, I'll give you one little thing. Nothing says to the mind a brand new start like fresh sheets. That's one thing that you can do that takes away fresh sheets. And I tell a lot of our counseling sessions, that's one of the things that I say to people. If you've been through a trauma, never get into a bed where the sheets aren't fresh. Always have fresh sheets. Always have fresh sheets, because they say to the mind, fresh new beginnings. They say to the mind that the atmosphere is safe. And that's just one of the things that you can make little notes, things that are going to lessen the trauma, things that are going to lessen the hit, things that are going to take away the triggers. And so here we are as we close this session. I hope that we have enjoyed ourselves. I hope that we have grown closer to an interior comfort. I'm hopeful that as our bodies constantly are bombarded with visceral warning signs, that even in the attempt to have peace tonight, that we've experienced some type of release. Ashe, we've experienced. So when we come to a place of release in the future, maybe tonight, maybe later on tonight, wink, wink, maybe tomorrow, maybe within yourself, maybe just knowing that yourself is okay, that you're beautiful, that you are okay just the way you are, that you are connected to a higher power that loves you just the way you are. Maybe in that you will receive the biggest release that you've ever experienced. Ashe, peace and blessings. Are there any comments?
Any questions, anybody? Wow, let's give Pastor Smart a great big hand. This was amazing. You know, yeah, just listening to this, we need to have a womb retreat. Go away for a whole week and just do womb healing.
Yes. Let's do it. Let's do it. I do them all through the year. I would love to be a part of one. I would love them. Yes. That would definitely be next steps.
Yes, because once we as women, once our energy is centered and balanced, then we can see the shift in the world.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
Because right now, the feminine energy is out of balance, and that's why we got so much chaos in the world. So we as women, we have to get whole and well, so we'll be able to, bring that harmony that we need to bring the families together, so we can be whole again. So thank you so much. This was amazing.
Amen. Yes. Sister.
Thank you. Oh, you're welcome. And I want everybody, because I have a special gift for everybody who attends. And Pastor Smart, I have a special gift for you as well.
Oh, Ashe.
Yes. So if everybody can just put your in your address. If you don't want to put your address, hit me up and say, well, Ms. Haynes, I will come to BWW and pick up my gift. Okay. But for everybody else, if you can put your information in the chat, I'll be more than happy to send you your gift. Okay.
Love it.
Thank you, Stephanie.
Welcome.
Stephanie.
Yes.
Thank you.
And we have our executive director on. And Jan, you would like to say anything to the group?
I think she hopped off, Stephanie.
Yeah.
I think she hopped off. But I can just say that I'm sure she was very excited and pleased, because she was asking and stating, we got to get Pastor Smart on, and we were saying we would have her on our podcast. But I want to say the combination, Stephanie, I've been through Stephanie's womb healing, and I've attended some womb sessions that Pastor Smart has done. And I know they would be amazing combined together. So I just thank you for this. I felt like I was getting my healing listening. That's why I was more quiet. There's so much that needs to take place for us to heal and be whole. So thank you for this great session.
Amen. This was amazing. Sisters, one love, and may we all be healed and constantly say to yourself all through the day, release, release. No matter what you're going through, release. Just keep on releasing. Keep on releasing until you've done the work.
Oh,
Ashe. Peace.
Stephanie, how do you want people to give the gifts? Thank you, Pastor. Ashe.
Ashe. I'm coming to WW to get my gift.
Yes. I can pick up for Sheila for sure. At some point, I'll get it. And we'll get our sister Coretta and Mignon. I think Mignon hopped off.
So you're gonna pick up, you'll be picking up the gifts, basically.
A few.
I pick mine up too.
Yes, everybody else. Make sure
Yes.
Stephanie has your number. Drop it in the chat so she can get you your gift.
yes,
Peace.
yes,
Amen.
Have a
What-
great night.
yes. Well, good night, everybody. Thank you
Good
so
night.
much for joining us. So next month, our next topic will be mental health and sex.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, so Dr. Rhonda Sherrod, she will be our guest speaker, and I want everybody to come back and enjoy. I mean, my goal is to make sure that each and every woman and man on this earth really get to the core issue of their suffering,
Oh,
because each and every one of us was born to be happy. All right, and we want to leave this earth with no regrets, to be able to live our full potential. That's my goal.
I love it.
Yes.
I love it. See you next
Thank
month.
you. Love you.
Yes. Okay.
Bye-bye.
Peace.
Bye-bye, everybody. See everybody tomorrow at the Purple Hat Affair. Okay.